Hello everyone, this is Voltage Development here, and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. So far we have done animation and locking cursor. Now, I want to try and teach you how to do player movement in your scene. Now, I already am looking at a script I made for player movement, all because I am not able to remember it for the life of me. I can't remember it. Like, it's so much coding, and it's so much better if I just like look at it and like, I don't know, reference it or something. So for now, even though we've put our mouse stuff on the first person controller, the first person character, actually, not first person controller, we are actually going to delete him. And now what we're going to do is let's place in a capsule, and with this capsule we are going to add a component onto it, which is the rigid I can't even speak, what is wrong with me? Rigid body. So we've now done that. Now, let's take a look over here. We've got this thing called constraints. Now, because we're dealing with physics here, and because we're moving our player with physics technically, we need to make sure that when we're moving our player within the rigid body, we don't make him rotate, or we don't make him fall over, because since we are a capsule, you know what? Let's get rid of the capsule. Let's instead put in a cube. There we go. We've got a second cube. We're actually gonna rename this to player, obviously, and let's tag him as player 2. Now, let's add the component rigid body again, and let's just keep it as it is for now. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a brand new script. So create C# script. Let's call this player movement. There we go. So now that we have our script created, we can go onto the player and we can just add the player's movement script over into our components, and let's open it up. So now we have a brand new script of player movement. So first thing that we're going to do, we're going to take away the comments, because we do not need comments. Well, we're going to need comments later on. When you're a dev, you want to make sure that like you know what part is doing what, so that you make a comment about it. But for now, we don't need comments. So looking at what I've already created, we are going to make a private rigid body. So rigid body, and let's call it RB, short for rigid body. Now in the void start, we're gonna do RB equals get component, and we also do the arrow keys. I don't even know what you call them. And inside we're gonna put rigid body, and then let's do brackets. Now, that's all you're going to need in that field at the moment. So now in the update, what we're going to need is a float. Now you don't need to make it private or public, because it's in the update section. So, well, technically you don't even need to make it private or public in this area, but it's easier to do private or public so that you know which one's which and stuff. So let's put a float in here, and our first float is going to be called move x, and this is going to equal input dot get axes, and then open close bracket, and inside do quotations, and then let's type out horizontal. Now let's do the same thing over here, but instead of move x, we're going to do move z, and then let's do equals input dot get axes, and then open close bracket, and then quotations, vertical. So what this is doing is the input.getAccess horizontal and input.getAccess vertical, they are your movement. Because if I come out of here and then if I go onto edit and then project settings, over here we've got our lovely project settings, and over in input we've got our axes, and at the moment our horizontal and vertical axes are A and D keys. So when we're pressing the A key, we are moving our player left, and when we're pressing the D key, we're moving our player right. And as it says here, left and right, A and D. So it's technically the same thing, but they are all inside of horizontal. Now vertical is the up and down, and because we're doing it in 3D, this is the forward movement. If we were doing it in 2D, this would be the, I don't know, up and down movement, but because it's 3D, we're doing the forward movement. So that is your input. So the move X is taking our A and D left and right, and the move Z is taking our up and down. So now you know. So now what we're going to need is, oh yeah, we need to make another float. This is going to be called the move speed, so that the player can move at a specific speed. It wouldn't be able to move if we don't have this, basically. So let's just give it, I don't know, 5F maybe. If you're not sure why I put F, it's because it's a float, a decimal number. If we put like an integer, an int, you won't need the F. You only need the F if you're doing a float. So now what we're gonna put down is vector3 movement. So what we have just done here is we're creating a vector3 variable called movement, and now we are going to, well, you could technically do new vector3 and then type in move x 0f and then move z, and then you would technically be done, although we also need to make sure our player actually moves with this, because at the moment we're just putting these coordinates inside of a vector3 movement variable. We're not submitting it to the player's actual movement. So to make sure that the player actually moves with these coordinates, we do transform, if I can actually spell transform dot position plus equals movement times by move speed. So let's just save this, and hopefully our player, our cube, will start moving once we get inside the game. Okay, so now that we're inside of the game, let's try moving our character. Holy crap. As you can see, our character is moving super quickly. So what we need to do is, let's come out of this and back into our script. Let's add a times and then put time dot delta time. Now what is time dot delta time? Let's just save it quickly. Time dot delta time, it's very dependent on frame rate. So what this means is if your game is running slowly, then your movement will still be smooth and fine. But if your game is running very, very quickly, then it will still be moving smoothly and fine as well. So because it's very dependent on frame rate, it normally wouldn't matter about if your game is running slowly or not. I don't quite understand it myself, but it's just very, very dependent on frame rate. So let's go back into the game. So now we're back inside of the game, so now let's just move. And there we go. Our player is moving, although I'm pressing like... Actually, hang on a minute. Let's just rotate the actual player itself. So let's do maybe minus 90, maybe? I think he'll be facing forward then. Okay, for some reason I'm pressing the A and D keys and he looks like he's going forward. So maybe it's just my camera that's behaving this way. Okay, you know what? What I'm gonna do is, now that you know that the player is actually moving, let's just recap on what we did. So, of course, we placed a cube in their scene, and we called it player, and we technically tagged it as player as well for now. And we put a rigid body on it. Technically, if we took away the rigid body, let's just remove the component. The player can still move around even though we haven't actually got the rigid body component. The reason why is because in the script, yes, we have actually declared a rigid body, but technically we're not actually using the rigid body for our movement. We're literally just using our input keys, mapping the axes, the left and right, up and down, to our input keys to the move X and move Z variable floats, and submitting them to the vector 3 movement. Now the vector 3 is just a point in world space where movement occurs. Now you're going to be learning more about vector 3 later on, and I'm slowly learning about vector 3s myself. Basically, vector 3 is 3D in Unity for like moving an object and detecting where in the world an object is. That's what vector 3 is. And we've mapped coordinates to the movement. So move X is just X, and 0 is the Y, and move Z is of course the Z. And the reason why we've put 0F to the Y is because we're not moving up or down, we're just moving left to right and forward and backward. That's all we're doing. And we are getting the transform position of the objects that this script is attached to, and we're adding on the movement from our vector 3, times them by the move speed and times them by the time dot delta time. I know that it's a lot confusing, but once you do it yourself and you look through the code yourself and you connect everything and understand it, then you're good to go. But if you're still confused, then please do let me know in the comments and I will try my very, very best to help you out. But that is basically it of the player movement in Unity. Like, yes, there are other ways to do player movement, although in the next video where I show you how to do mouse movement, we are going to be tweaking this movement here, because I will show you why in the mouse movement in the next video. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed and if this helped you out, then good. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.